Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're on day 13 of the Spellbinders Crafty Advent Calendar. So if you don't want to know what's in here, then save this video to watch later. If you do, you're about to find out what's in day 13, and then we're going to create something with it. I hope you've enjoyed following along so far. If you haven't seen the previous videos from this, go check out the playlist. They're all in order there. So today we have a stamp set, and it's a thanks stamp set that has a ton of different languages. And I love the fact that this stamp set does include that same sentiment, but in different languages. So it just makes it great for being able to use and create cards or thank you cards in different languages. Now, before I do anything with my stamp sets, I always open them up, use a white eraser on them, and erase the stamping surface. This is just going to remove any manufacturing residue from there. And I know myself, if I've used even one stamp from any stamp set that I've done that to the entire set. So you only have to do this one time. You don't have to do this each and every time. So for this card, I'm going to also bring out the stamp from day 2, the nice floral stamp. You could create a horizontal card here or a vertical one, and you could stamp the image in 2 different corners or just one. I'm going to do just one today because I have another idea for enhancing it once I'm done coloring my image. I'm going to color it with Copic markers, but you can color it however you like, or you could even stamp and emboss in watercolor or stamp it with permanent ink and watercolor it. So there's many ways that you can color in stamped images. I'm just going to do a Copic markers because I don't think I've done any this series. And just wanted to share another way to color in different images. So I'm using some black Memento ink. It's Copic friendly ink. If you want to use alcohol-based markers, you do need to make sure that you're using Copic friendly ink. The first 2 colors I'm coming in with is YG63 and YG67 to do all the greenery and the leaves. You can do Copic coloring with just one color. Here I'm doing 2 colors for the shading, or 1 color for the coloring and 1 color for the shading, because all of these areas are very, very small. So there's not a lot of area to do more than that. But I've seen people color in different images using up to 4 different colors or 4 shades of a different color. 4 shades of each color to get some really deep shading. I'm just doing very, very simple Copic coloring here for one because these areas are very small. And I also think this is a perfect image or a perfect way to start out if you haven't used alcohol-based markers for coloring. I love them because they don't start to pill the paper. You can color that same image over and over again. You can color the same area forever, and that paper is not going to start to pill. Whereas dye-based markers, they are going to start to pill very, very quickly, and it's going to start to damage the paper. You don't have that issue with Copic markers or with alcohol-based markers. There is a little bit of a learning curve to them, but this is a great way to start with just 2 colors or 2 shades of each color. For the side flowers there, I'm using R22 and R24. All of my colors I'm using are 2 to 3 numbers apart. So the greens were YG63 and 67. The red here, or the coral color here, is R22 and R24. To start out, that's a great way to choose your colors, because then you know they're going to be fairly similar in shade. They're just going to be, one is going to be a little bit darker than the other. So I'm going to do that for the little side or tiny flowers on the side, and I'm also using that for the center of the focal flowers. For those focal flowers, I'm using V06 and V09 for some purple. And I always, when I'm doing Copic coloring, I start with my light color, then I go in with my dark color and do that shading, and then I go back in with that light color to blend those 2 colors out. I have seen some people use the dark color first to do the shading and then go all over it with the light color to do their blending that way. This is how I learned how to do it, and I just am in the habit of doing it, so that's how I always do it. And once again, I'm doing these 3 colors here, or 3 different colors here for this image. You can color it however you want to, use whatever colors you want. So you don't have to stick with these colors. Obviously, if you're creating your own card, you can create whatever color combination you would like. So I'm once again going in with the lightest purple first to color that whole flower. Then I went in with the dark purple and just did some shading at the base of each petal, and then went back in with that light color. And I'm going to repeat that same process for the second flower. I typically will do one flower at a time. I won't do them all unless they're tiny flowers. Those little coral ones that I did on the side, they were really tiny, so you could do multiple flowers at once. And the leaves as well, they're very, very tiny, so you can do a whole stem full of leaves with the first color and then go in with the shading. This is something that I like to do when I'm coloring with Copics. I have a C1 here. It's a very, 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 very pale gray. It's barely any color at all. And what I'm doing with this marker is I'm outlining that image. And what that does is it gives it a shadow and it makes it look like it's popped off the page. And there, I just lifted it up. I have half the image done and the other half not done. And the area that I have it outlined, it just kind of pops off a little bit more. Now, this is a feature that because this color is so light, most people don't even notice it's there until you point it out to them. So you don't need to be perfect and make sure that these lines are exactly the same width all around. You can see that I'm doing it fairly quickly. I'm not being super, super careful. When there's an area that's really, really tiny from outlining all the different pieces around it, I just fill that entire piece in. But it's one of those things that just kind of make the image pop just a little bit. And it's something that I've shown people before, and they're amazed at how effective it is. It's something, again, that you don't see it until it's pointed out to you. So now that our image is ready, we're ready to assemble the card. I just have a white card base here, and I'm using some Dahlia cardstock that is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. My image piece, I trimmed it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and we could leave this here as it is. One thing I didn't mention is I use a Stardust gel pen in the center of the flowers for just a tiny little bit of shimmer. I wanted to bring a little bit more shimmer to this. So I have a ruler here that it's a grid ruler, and it has measurements up to or as small as an 1/8 inch. I'm starting with a 1/4 inch in, and I'm starting my line a 1/4 inch in from the edge and then going along the edge of the cardstock and stopping a 1/4 inch from the edge. So I'm kind of creating a frame here. I'm going to repeat that process, doing it 1/8 of an inch from the edge, so I have a double line. And it's one of those things that is very, very subtle. When you're looking at it straight on, you can kind of see the lines, but they're not very prominent, so it's not taking any focus away from those flowers. But when you tilt it into the light, you're going to catch a little bit of the shimmer, both from those lines as well as the shimmer from the center of the flower. So it's a very subtle detail that just adds a little bit more detail to your card, and I really love the effect of it. So we have a very, very simple card here that is colored with alcohol-based markers. Again, you can color it however you would like, but it's a great way to use up one of the stamps or 2 of the stamps from your Crafty Advent Calendar. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you spending your time with me, and I will see you tomorrow, and we will see what is in day 14.